On some occasions, the personalities aren't even aware of each other.
They are not aware of each other sometimes, but even when they are aware of each other, if it's multiple personality, if it's that extreme end, they certainly don't identify with each other at all.
Yeah.
That never happens. There's no overlapping of identity. With some lesser, not as far to the extreme of dissociative identity disorder, there's some sort of overlapping. A person might feel themselves going from one state to another, and they're quite separate, but they have some feeling, yeah, that was me, I guess, a minute ago. So it's not that airtight.
Right.
But what I'm talking about, and what is true of some of the famous cases, like Eve, of Three Faces of Eve, Sybil, and so forth, there's this airtight difference between them. And that's what you have to deal with as a therapist.
Now, you knew the person who was the center of the Three Faces of Eve story.
Yes, Chris Sizemore's her name, yes.
And you knew her rather well.
Yes, I did. At one point we began preparations for possibly writing a book together, but it did various things, kept that from happening. But I knew her very well, yes.
And when you were with her, did she manifest these various personalities?
No, that was long in her past. I knew her when she was in her 60s. That's when I first met her. And that had been cleared up many years before. She had basically
been able to integrate these various sub-personalities into a whole person.
Integration is the word often used, but she would not use it because it wasn't integration that happened to her. She experienced them as the other personalities simply as going away, not becoming melded in any way at all.
Well, was that your experience too?
Of her, well, she was just one personality. I just knew the final personality.
Yeah. What, did she seem well balanced, grounded?
Oh, very.
Wholesome?
Excellent. Yes, she was strong. She was very intelligent, talented, a great speaker. Yeah. Very much full personality. But it wasn't an amalgamation of the others.
Well, and now you mentioned earlier the idea of pain, the inner pain that is the source of this disorder. I presume we're talking about, typically speaking, early childhood trauma.
Yes, that's right. Usually there is some kind of trauma that, for whatever reason, for this child, is so bad that they simply have to cut it off as a separate experience and not revisit it. Except sometimes it then remains with them nonetheless as a separate personality that knows that experience where the others don't. And
the way that Eve, in the story of Three Faces of Eve, was made into a classic film.
Yes.
Starring Joanne Woodward.
Yes.
The two personalities, she called them Eve Black and Eve White. Eve Black was very sexy and seductive and naughty and in kind of an attractive way, actually. And Eve White, if I remember, was something of a prude.
Well, she was, and she was low energy, and she was subject to headaches, and there were a lot of problems between her and her husband because he felt sort of like there wasn't much of a relationship between them. So she suffered from that, and the reason she came to therapy was precisely, it was Eve White who came to therapy because she was unhappy with her life. She was depressed. She had headaches and so forth.
And she wasn't aware of Eve Black.
No, she was not. That took a while. The psychiatrist helped her become aware of Eve Black.
And then other personalities came out.
Yes. The first set of personalities she had were Eve Black, Eve White, and Jane. And that's why it's called the Three Faces of Eve.
I think Jane Grey was a label I recall.
Yes, that's right. However, in her case, it was an unusual case in that she had sets of three personalities that came one after the other. So after those three, there were another three and another three until she finally had 30 personalities.
That seems more than enough to deal with any early childhood trauma. It makes me wonder if she wasn't doing it in order to please the therapist.
Well, that is sometimes brought as a criticism to the phenomena by people who are skeptical.
Because there are some skeptics who believe that multiple personalities don't really exist,
Yes.
that it's all acting.
Yes. Try acting that one. They can't do it, I could tell you that.